you've seen it in the thumbnail and now you really want to know how to make it. I know that feeling because I'm the same when I first saw it. Right, let's have a look at what we've got for ingredients for a Sicilian orange cake. It is very wise to have some oranges, and I would normally use 2 large oranges, but as you see by the size of the lemon, these are fairly small, so I'm using 3. I've got a lemon. Let's see what else we need. I need 2 tablespoons of softened butter, which I've got there. A cup of breadcrumbs. I'm using these Japanese style panko breadcrumbs. They're rather nice. So I'll only need a cup of them, and also a cup of ground almonds. And if you're worried about the ground almonds, don't worry too much, because this isn't an almondy cake per se. It's actually very orangey, very zesty, and super delicious. You'll need a cup of sugar, which I've got here, and you'll need 2/3 of a cup of sugar for the syrup. And also for the syrup you'll need some cinnamon. There's about half a stick of cinnamon there. You'll need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. You'll need 4 large eggs, and start with those at room temperature. So leave them out for about an hour if you've kept them in the fridge. You'll need 3/4 of a cup of vegetable oil, and that needs to be a neutral flavoured vegetable oil. So something like corn oil would be perfect. Yeah, corn oil or sunflower oil perhaps. You'll need the grated zest from 2 large oranges or 3 small oranges, and you'll need the grated zest from the lemon. Make sure you keep the fruit though, because the juice from those will also go into the syrup. And you'll need, although this is entirely optional and it is quite hard to get, is orange blossom water. It's used extensively in Middle Eastern and particularly Lebanese cooking. I managed to get some, and there's also in the recipe, which I have printed and which I'll link below, is on my blog. So, and it's been on my blog since 2011, so it's been on there a long time. So I finally got around to making it for you. So, as I said, for the orange syrup, you'll need the juice of the from the citrus fruit, and you'll need half a cup of sugar. You'll need half a cinnamon stick, and it says in my recipe that you'll need 2 tablespoons of Grand Marnier or other orange liqueur. I don't have any of that, so I won't be using it, but you can, it's optional, you can leave it out if you want. And you'll need another half teaspoon of orange blossom water, orange flower water. Again, you can leave that out if you haven't got it, because it's perfectly good cake without it. I've tried it. Okay, so let's get on and make this baby. So the toughest job in all this is zesting. So orange and lemons, both the same. You want unwaxed ones, and if they are waxed from the store, like me, give them a good scrub down and clean them off. You can get a zester, which I'll be using, which works really well, and it takes it off like that. You can use a grater and grate it off, but the idea is not to get too much of the white pith in there. Alright, so you want to, another way of doing it is to take one of these speed peelers and cut it off like that, and then just chop it finely with a knife, super fine, and it has the same sort of effect. So just get it all chopped up nicely. So I'm going to get on and zest those, and then we'll get back to you. So once I've got that chopped up, I just want to go through it. Just make sure there's no large chunky pieces in it. Just chop it up. A bit of extra diligence doesn't hurt. And then I'm just going to take a teaspoon of that off. About a teaspoon, actually about a couple of teaspoons of it. Add that as a garnish later on. It'll go on top of the cake and look rather nice. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to start making my syrup because I want that to simmer for a few minutes. So into there I'm throwing the cinnamon, the half cup of sugar, and then I want to get in my citrus juices. And however you do this, it's up to you. I mean, if you've got a juicing machine, do it that way. I'm just doing it using my squeezer. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So that's the lemon juice and the orange juice. And into that I'm going to put half a teaspoon of the orange blossom, orange flower water. There we go, it goes in. That adds a nice scent and a slight bitterness to it, in fact. So I'll just give that a quick stir, and then I'm going to put that on the stove, bring that slowly to a boil, and then reduce it to a simmer for about 10-15 minutes, and then let it cool. Okay, we do this by the wet ingredient, dry ingredients method, so I'm going to get my dry ingredients together in this. So that's 1 cup of almond flour, a cup of breadcrumbs. You can use your own made dry white breadcrumbs if you so desire. They go in. I particularly like this cake because, if truth be known, if I'm totally honest with you, I don't really enjoy working with flour too much. In goes the sugar. That's the cup of sugar. And we want 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So I'll mix that together so that it's well incorporated, and I'll put that to one side. Wet ingredients. In goes the oil, that's 3/4 cup of oil, and rather bland tasting oil if you can. And your eggs, 4 eggs. And you whisk them together, the eggs and oil. And I like to do this well, so that it's all well incorporated. Okay, now I've got the wet ingredients, need to mix them together now, make a little well, add in the wet ingredients, that's the oil and the eggs, mix that all well together, and then add in all the zest, all the remaining zest. You can kind of see how this is going to turn out, can't you, already? I mean, you kind of know it just by looking at it. And then into that, because I've got it, you don't have to, it's optional. I'm putting in another half teaspoon of orange flower or orange blossom water. So big thanks again to Bradley Bennett and to Mr. Paul for making all the difference. Thanks a lot. So I'm just going to strain off my syrup. Strain it off into a jug or another vessel. And into that I'm just going to stick the remaining zest, because that will end up on top of the cake as a garnish. That smells absolutely wonderful. Alright, I've lined my 9-inch 23cm cake mould, it's a springform mould, with silicone paper bottom and sides, and I've poured the cake batter into it. Now that goes into my oven while the oven's cold, but I turn the oven up to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius, and that cooks for around about 40 to 45 minutes until the cake rises and browns. But we'll keep an eye on that. Okay guys, if you want to help me out, please like, share, subscribe, and let your friends know about it. Also, there is now a PayPal subscriber link down below in the show more section, and there's also a subscribe star link there if you want to help me out. Thanks in advance, and meanwhile the thumbs up help an awful lot. Thank you very much. Okay, we're at the 45-minute mark and it's nice and brown on top. Let's get it out and let's have a look. Yeah, nice. So I'll just let that cool off for a few minutes and then we'll release it from its spring form and get it onto a cooling rack. So there it is on the cooling rack. I've taken off the silicone paper from the outside, but I've left the silicone paper on the bottom, and that's because when we introduce the syrup to this cake, we're going to want something underneath it as well as a plate to hold all that moisture. So I'm going to let that cool off completely now and then transfer it to a plate. So there we are, I've transferred it to a plate. I would have preferred to get a wider plate so it didn't sink so much in the bottom, but I have to work with what I've got, I'm afraid. So the next thing I'm going to do is go along it with just this barbecue skewer and make a few holes, because this is a drizzle cake and we're going to drizzle it with a bit of this lovely orange syrup we made earlier on. And then you spoon it over the top, gradually allowing it to sink in, and then you carry on until you run out of syrup. And the nice thing is the bits of peel you've got in suspension in the syrup, they just form a nice little decoration on the top of the cake. So you let it sink in a minute or two and then go round again until you run out of syrup. It's really quite easy. I'm going to go around the edges a bit more. It smells fabulous, this stuff. Now that's all applied, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that stand for about 10 or 15 minutes before slicing the cake and letting you see inside. So now for the moment of truth. Let's cut into this beautiful cake. Let's have a look. Just want to lift it off the paper on the bottom. And there we have it. Gorgeous Sicilian orange cake. I'm going to transfer that to a plate and then we'll do a little taste test for you. How's that? This is the best part of every recipe, testing it out. So, Sicilian orange cake. Gorgeous, moist. Let's have a go. It's truly amazing. It's the lemon gives it a zestiness that you couldn't get from oranges alone. So you can see why the lemon has to go in there. And it's super moist. It holds its shape, and you've really got to make this. You've got to try this. It's absolutely amazing. It's every bit as great as I remember it. I'll have another piece of that because I can. There's little bits of resistance when you're eating it, just from the bits of peel in there, and then the delicious burst of zestiness. Oh, I've never known a cake like this. Never known a cake anything like it. So you've really got to try it. I'm really pleased with that.